I think he's earned a lot of respect from everybody around the program and around the conference for how he's handled things, how tough he's been. Obviously, all the adversities he's had to fight through between sickness, illness, still that ankle is still not back to 100%. It's always going to be a worry. It seems like at this point. I think he's had a heck of a season, and Creighton relies on him so much.
You're listening to the Blue Jay Breakdown.
Welcome into another edition of Blue Jay Breakdown. Anna and Jacob alongside with you. We're doing a little remote edition today from home. Studio was booked up. We got a lot of guests with Hurrdat Media, so Jacob and I are hanging out at home and talking some Creighton hoops, and the women's side doing great. Won 5 in a row, 6-0 in conference. They beat Marquette at home and then beat Seton Hall on the road. Jacob, what have been your main takeaways of the stretch?
Yeah, well, the first one is congrats to Morgan Maly on her first Big East Player of the Week, first of her career, and she certainly earned it. During those 2 wins, she averaged 25.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, shot 67% from the field, including 12 of 17 from 3, which is pretty ridiculous. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about her in a bit here throughout this pod, actually, because it's impossible to talk about Creighton women's best right now without including Maly in every discussion. But that's the first thing. Great week for her. And then starting with that Marquette game, I was in the building for that one, and it's kind of continued a trend recently that Jim Flannery isn't thrilled about, despite them winning. They haven't put together 40 full minutes of consistent defensive effort and communication and execution. And this was another example of that. Ended up winning 71-68, but they led by as much as 15 in the second half, but gave up a 10-1 run at the end and needed to successfully defend a 3 on Marquette's last possession to secure the victory there. So that's got to improve. They can't go through these lulls like they have in each of these last few games where they haven't dominated from start to finish. But fortunately, Morgan Maly, 28 points on 10 of 11 shooting in that game. Went 8 of 9 from 3. And a couple of those were just, there are a couple that were tough, but it was like Marquette didn't study the scouting report or watch the film, because she got a lot of really open looks. And that's not something you want to give this Creighton team. Lauren Jensen had 17 points, but it was on 7 of 19 from the field, 6 assists and 4 turnovers. So she was struggling a little bit compared to her normal level, and Maly was the one that picked up the slack and carried Creighton, because nobody else really got into the flow either.
Looking at that Seton Hall win on the road, again, we talked about it before, but a rising Seton Hall team in the Big East, 72-64 victory. So that was a much-needed win as well, just for their resume. And then you saw Morgan Maly go off for 23 points. But I do want to key in on Jensen, 3 of 14 from the field. Is there any worry about Jensen, or is it, hey, here's a little rough patch for her and Morgan Maly picked up the slack, all as well?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry long term, but it definitely is a little bit of a trend recently where she is not playing as well as she has been recently. She for whatever reason can't seem to get to the foul line very often, despite the amount of initiation she does and the amount of driving to the basket. So the whistle's been tough for her. She only had 2 free throws in this one. Didn't take any in the previous game. So that's an issue right now. But yeah, she didn't shoot the ball well at all. One was 6 from 3 against Seton Hall. Mm-hmm. But like you said, fortunately, Maly was there to pick up the slack once again. Creighton was up 12 at halftime. And Seton Hall cut it to a 2-point game with 2 minutes to play. And then Maly said, nah, this is over. Back-to-back threes to stretch it back out, and then hit 2 free throws at the end there to secure the victory for the 8-point win. And like you said, Seton Hall, they undefeated in conference play going in. It was a matchup of teams off to great starts, and Creighton got the big win to improve to 6-0, and they're tied with UConn atop the league right now. The other Maly Mogensen, also had a great game. 18 points, 8 of 14 shooting, hit a couple of threes, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So, long term, not worried about Jensen, and short term, they need somebody else to step up because Jensen's been carrying this team all season long, and we know it's been Maly as kind of the consistent force there, but getting Mogensen to have a game like that was big to get this road victory.
Yeah. I mean, has there been a game this season you can think of that all three have been like having their best game on a given night?
I don't know about best game. There've been a few where Maly Mogensen has really gotten going, and that's given them a chance. We talked about kind of throughout the season. It's between Mogensen, Keani Lockett, and Kennedy Townsend. They're all kind of in the same boat offensively, all in that kind of like 6 to 8 point range. And at different times this season, it's been different ones stepping up. And for this team, that's good enough as long as you've got Jensen and Maly playing at the level they are, which is first team All Big East level. Maly in particular, in Creighton's 6 Big East games, averaging just over 18 points and just under 7 boards a game, and is shooting 55.6 from three. 55.6% from 3-point range. And we know she gets them up. That's not on tiny volume. So that right there, she is playing at incredibly high level, and Creighton absolutely needs it.
And it's great to see from Morgan Maly too, because she had patches of inconsistency that people wondered, but I mean, Morgan Maly has answered that bell, and we know the type of player she can be. And like you mentioned, a first team All Big East selection, at least she should be. But yeah, Molly's been incredible. But looking ahead to DePaul at home on Saturday, again, it just feels like a must win for this Creighton team with 4 losses on the resume. How do you look at that matchup at home?
Yeah, you just look at the Big East standings, and DePaul is 4-1, but they're 9-9 overall, and they have 7 losses by 19 plus points. So, I mean, they have played a tough schedule. They played some of the same teams that Creighton has played. They've played a handful of ranked teams, but they're also not a team that has done well in those games. So, this is a game that Creighton needs to go out and take care of business in. Jory Allen is DePaul's go-to player, averaging almost 19 points, 6 boards, and almost 4 assists a game. Kind of a do-everything forward, 6 foot there. So it'll be interesting to see the defensive matchups, who gets a call there. And Taylor Johnson Matthews is their leading scorer at guard, averaging about 15 points a game, shooting 36% from 3. So they get a Saturday afternoon game here, and Creighton's going to have to take care of business here, because the schedule is going to get even tougher here moving up. They haven't faced UConn yet. That's coming up soon. So they have to figure out, like I talked about, the inconsistency. They got to go out and put together a 40-minute defensive effort, whether shots are falling or not. That's something that they can control, and they haven't quite gotten there yet. But it's also nice to be able to get wins and still come away with things to work on.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's flip over to the men's basketball side. We just saw them beat Providence 84-64 last night, but going back to that Butler win, it was a close one. It was a very close one, 80-76, and we knew afterwards that Ryan Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth were throwing up and sick before that game, and then they combined for 40-plus points. So a pretty incredible performance by those seniors to help carry that team when the three wasn't really falling for them. How'd they get it done, Jacob?
Yeah, it was a big one, their first road win of the season. Improved to 11th, or then they defended the home court, like you said. So they kind of on a roll here, won 4 of the last 5, and includes that win at Butler, where it was 43 all at halftime. I don't think Greg McDermott was thrilled with the defensive effort and execution early on, and even Ryan Kalkbrenner, I didn't think he had his best stuff for the last 15 or so minutes of that half. Butler did a good job of kind of just putting him in tough spots, and he wasn't making the great reads, or wasn't positioned the way he normally is. And then they got him with some pick and pop stuff. Bone Kapke came in and gave them a boost there off the bench as kind of their stretch backup 5. And then the second half, Kalkbrenner was absolutely dominant. He had, 14 points, 7 boards, and 5 blocks in the second half alone. Was cooking in the post, running the floor, just kind of doing everything that we've come to expect from Ryan Kalkbrenner to dominate the flow of play. Finished with 26 points, 9 rebounds, 6 blocks, shot 11 of 17 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Second time in his career he's hit 3 threes. The previous time was also against Butler last year. Career high is 4. He had in the holiday tournament last year. Creighton went on a stretch there where Jemiah Neal, who didn't have a great offensive game, particularly in the first half, he took over, scored 8 straight Creighton buckets, a personal 6-0 run to extend the lead out to 12. And Creighton looked to be kind of in control. And then Butler went 4 or 5 from 3 in a 4-minute span to cut that thing down. And Creighton did a good enough job to execute at the end there. Kalkbrenner played a big part of it. Butler had a chance to cut that thing down to 1 possession. Kalkbrenner blocked a shot out of bounds to prevent a layup, and then on the inbounds play, jumped out to the corner and forced Patrick McCaffrey into a tough contest, or contested the 3-pointer, made it a tough shot. That would have been a big bucket there, put some real stress on Creighton, but Kalkbrenner made a heads up play to get out there and contest it. So Kalkbrenner was phenomenal. Stephen Ashworth, nearly a triple-double, despite, like you said, throwing up right before the starting lineups. He kind of wasn't out there with the huddle when they showed it on TV. We saw, because he was taking care of what he needed to take care of to get ready to play. Finished with 22 points, 12 rebounds, career high there, and 9 assists. But the 3-point shooting kind of struggles continued. Missed his first 7 before making a big one in the second half. But also went 7 of 12 inside the arc. So when the shot isn't falling, he's been finding other ways to impact the game in a big way, and Butler was a great example of that.
Well, let's talk that Providence win, because we saw the usual suspects of Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth fill the stat sheet, but some unusual suspects as well in that matchup, with Mason Miller, a season-high 8 points, and then also Isaac Traudt, 4 for 4 from 3, and finished with 13 points. What did you like out of that win last night?
Yeah, the first half was kind of more of Kalkbrenner and Ashworth carrying a heavy load. They combined for 28 of Creighton's points. Providence only had 34 points at halftime. So it was those two early on. But then the bench came alive in the second half. Started with Traudt. Isaac Traudt just went 4 from 3 with an and 1 in a 4-minute stretch early in the second half. And that was really kind of the decisive run. It was back and forth every time Creighton started to create a little bit of separation. Providence made a run and got themselves back into it until that in the second half, where the Jays controlled the action most of the second half after Traudt went on that run. And he had a couple of tough threes in that stretch. He said, falling down in the left corner, hit one. He said, yeah, that was the heat check. But it went in, so it was a good shot. And he was great to spark him. And then you mentioned Mason Miller. He got a dunk, I think second career dunk off a tap out rebound attempt from Providence that he leaked out on, and had a clear runway to the rim and finished it. And then got 2 corner threes in the second half. And it was funny. There was one where, so he hit his first one, and then Isaac Traudt, obviously, like we said, on fire. Miller took a contested 3 that ended up getting blocked in transition from the right wing, and Creighton called timeout. Mac went over there and talked to him that, like, that's not what we need. And then the next play out there, space to the corner, drove baseline. Jemiah Neal, great pass to him in the corner, and knocked it down. So good to see Miller have some shots go down. Mac talked about that on Tuesday, or on Monday rather, that he just needs to see one go down. He's doing a lot of good stuff. He's working hard in practice. It's just a confidence thing at this point, and to get that first one to go down from the corner gave him confidence to take the second one as well. And those 8 points were big to help Creighton, because they tied, I think, season high 14 threes in the game, and Providence only hit 4 of them. So that is a massive differential there, and helped Creighton get the win for sure.
When Mason Miller, Isaac Traudt, or a guy like Jackson McAndrew are on and shooting and hitting threes, how much does that change this Creighton offense?
It basically it makes Creighton look like what it was supposed to heading into the year, obviously minus Pop Isaacs, but that was kind of the way this team was built. Is you've got 2 or 3 guys that are high level players that teams really have to account for, and Kalkbrenner, Ashworth, and then Isaacs was in the mix there. And then you've got floor spacing around them that'll make it tough to double Kalkbrenner, make it tough to collapse on that pick and roll with Ashworth, because now you're picking your poison. You're leaving great shooters wide open, or you're letting those guys go to work with space. And so that is kind of what Creighton is supposed to be and what this roster was built for. And it hasn't always been there this season, but when it is, this team can still be deadly. And we saw with those guys spacing the floor, Creighton hitting threes as a team. Kalkbrenner 20-10 and 6 blocks, second straight game with 6 blocks, 0 fouls and 0 turnovers as well. And he, again, a little bit, there was a stretch there in the first half where maybe he wasn't 100% locked in and executing at the level he's capable of, but second half, he just dominated and held Providence to 38% from the field. Their top 2 scorers went 3 of 19 from the field, Jane Pierre and Benzie Joseph, and credit to the guards out on the perimeter for taking away those looks, but also Kim English said, like, Kalkbrenner was the biggest reason for their struggles, and he said he's different. They hadn't had to play against a center like him for a while there, and they weren't quite ready for it.
How different and special of a player has Kalkbrenner been in Big East play specifically?
Yeah, you look at the numbers just at these games, averaging 18.5 points, 8.2 rebounds, 3.7 blocks, shooting 60% from the field, and 50% from 3 on almost 3 attempts a game. He's making more than 1 3 a game in Big East play. So that's something that he's worked on throughout his career. Even last year, he started to take a few, but it wasn't anything that Creighton could really, like, it was always a bonus. This season, he's starting to make it a legitimate threat and a weapon for Creighton, that if teams are going to leave him that open, he's going to knock him down and make him pay. And that'll make it that much tougher to defend all their other actions, all the handoffs and all the stuff where the big guy normally hangs back with Kalkbrenner handling the ball near the top of the key. So that has been a huge thing for Creighton so far in Big East play. And yeah, he's playing at a very high level right now.
Yeah, speaking of high level, Stephen Ashworth, since the injury to Pop Isaacs, and he really had to take command of this offense even more, and without Pop out there on the floor. What have you liked from Ashworth and how he's handled it?
Yeah, it hasn't always been 100% efficient or taking care of the ball, but he has to do so much for this team. And you just look at the kind of difference since Isaacs went down. He's averaging almost 19 points a game, almost 4 rebounds, almost 8 assists a game, and 4 turnovers a game, and almost 38 minutes a game. That's up from, he was at just under 16 a game, 4.4 assists, 3.4 turnovers, and about 33 minutes a game with Isaac still out there. And a big difference is the 3-point shooting. It's down to 31.5% after shooting about 40% when he was sharing the backcourt with Isaacs. But he's having to create so many more of his own threes compared to what he was getting when Isaacs was out there, kind of being able to draw the defense and set him up for some better ones. And it also includes the 2 for 21 stretch for in the Marquette and Butler games. So he went 4-10, kind of got it back a little bit against Providence. That's good to see. I'm assuming some aggression to the mean is coming there for him to get that percentage back up. But yeah, he's just carried such a heavy load, and I think he's earned a lot of respect from everybody around the program and around the conference for how he's handled things, how tough he's been. Obviously, all the adversities he's had to fight through between sickness, illness, still that ankle is still not back to 100%. It's always going to be a worry, it seems like, at this point. I think he's had a heck of a season, and Creighton relies on him so much.
Well, they'll need him on Saturday morning as well, facing the back-to-back defending champs, UConn Huskies out in Stores. What do you expect from that matchup and this UConn Husky team, which is obviously a different one than we saw last year?
Yeah, UConn sitting there at 13-4, 5-1 in the Big East. They're down in 26 in KenPom, and largely because of defense. They are third in the country in offense, and they are an absolute machine. I think Hurley and his staff have earned a lot of respect around the country for the way they run their offense. And this team, they've got 4 guys averaging double figures. Although freshman Liam McNeely has been out. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't heard anything recently. It's kind of, they thought he'd be out a couple weeks or so, and we're kind of in that range. So Creighton could potentially see him back out there, which makes a big difference. Averaged about 14 points, 6 boards, 2.5 assists a game, shooting 38% from 3. The familiar face back is Alex Caravan, leading the team, 16 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, shooting 43% from 3. He's the starter back from the title teams. And then Solomon Ball has taken a huge leap this season, averaging almost 14 points a game, shooting 44% from 3. Is stepping up for them. That Terrace Reed, transferred in from Michigan, has kind of split time with Samson Johnson in the middle there, and Reed's kind of asserted himself, averaging 10 points and 7.5 boards a game. So there's just a lot of guys that Creighton's going to have to deal with. The key is going to be, can they take advantage of the weaknesses UConn has shown defensively, where they haven't allowed a ton of threes, but teams are shooting them at a 38% clip against them. So teams are also getting to the line quite a bit against UConn. That's not something that Creighton typically does a ton of, but maybe it's one where Kalkbrenner can get their bigs into foul trouble and get Creighton in the bonus and get Creighton some easy points that way. Because UConn is certainly a team that you're going to have to keep pace with offensively, because they can really pour it in.
All right, well, we'll find out on the next episode of Blue Jay Breakdown what happened in Stores, and it'll be a telling tale for the Blue Jay team. Thanks so much for joining us on Blue Jay Breakdown. We'll talk to you guys next time.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.